obviously, this is in the news a lot more because of the potential overturn of Roe v. Wade. Where do you personally stand on abortion? Should there be any limits at all at any point during the pregnancy?
The woman's right to abortion should be, as long as it's safe for her and the fetus, there should be no restrictions.
When you say safe for the fetus, what do you mean by that?
Well, not safe for the fetus.
When I had my abortion back in 1982, it was extremely easy. Bing, bang, boom, and it was done. I know for me, I never, ever wanted children, ever. And I didn't want to be pregnant. It was just like, I want to get rid of this.
Do you have anyone in your own life that disagrees with you on this, that you've been able to try to talk to and convince them to see things your way?
Nope.
Well, I certainly think it's hypocritical to be anti-food stamps and be anti-abortion.
So if you're pro-food stamps, then you should also be pro-life?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it that deeply.
And I think it really comes down, we always talk about how, the Republicans have such great marketing, and I think that the other side needs to step up our marketing. It's the whole pro-choice, pro-life narrative. It's such a misnomer. It's not actually pro-choice. It's pro-life.
Should there be any limits at all at any point during the pregnancy? Should sex-selective abortion be okay? Should it be completely unrestricted? What are your thoughts?
What was the last one? Should what abortion be okay?
Sex-selective abortion. So currently, if someone...
Wow, that makes me uncomfortable about sex-selective abortion. It's just, I don't know, something about that is nervous to me.
I think once a fetus can exist outside the womb, you should not have an abortion. I just don't like the idea, but I can't say for other people.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable. That's getting into a different sort of a choice to me than to have a child. I don't know how to articulate this properly, but it's kind of like in China where they would, if there was a female, they would, wouldn't bring it to birth. So that makes me uncomfortable, sex selective.
Me too. I'm uncomfortable with that.
Would you be uncomfortable if someone wanted an abortion because they believed their child was going to have a disability?
That's another one that to me is very tricky. And I don't think I can really speak to that.
Yeah, I don't know either until I would have that on my plate. Yeah.
If you find out you're pregnant with a girl and you say, well, I wanted a boy, you can have an abortion to resolve that for you. Would you support sex-selective abortions or any reason for abortion, or do you think sometimes it should be restricted?
It's not my decision for what another woman decides she wants to do and needs to do, or family. And it's not just a woman, it's a family. So I'm not going to make that decision for anybody else. I'm just make it for myself and speak for other women who want to be able to make those decisions for themselves.
Should there be a cutoff at a certain point during the pregnancy? What do you think?
Well, obviously, once you get to 6 months, I think that's crossing a line. When I had mine, I was only 6 weeks pregnant. Obviously, once you get past 6 months, then the baby can be born outside of, the womb. So that's cutting it close. But again, nobody else's business. Nobody else's business.
So legally, do you think it should be available past 6 months, or should there be a line in the sand there?
That's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Where do you think the cutoff, if any, should be for abortion?
That's a good question, and there probably should be a cutoff, but I don't know. I can't answer that for you.
Would you be okay in those first 6 months with sex-selective abortion, or aborting because the baby's going to be a girl or a boy and maybe you didn't want that gender?
Sure, it's nobody else's business.
When do you think the life starts?
Well, for me, I think it's a decision with the healthcare professional and with a lot of young girls who are in college. I think a lot of times things happen, and for girls, I think they're the ones that often get left, being pregnant, and then they will lose out. So I was always raised that if something happened, if it's early, it's like your choice to discuss it with the doctor and do what's right with you.
Do you think when life begins is relevant to the conversation?
Well, I think so much is about brought in with religion, and so
When life begins is like even outside of religion, like I mean that's just it would be a scientific thing, So from a scientific perspective, do you think it matters?
I mean, I'm not sure for me.
Life does not begin at conception, at fertilization.
When does it begin?
When the baby is born!
Currently, the Senate is debating, as well as a law in California is debating abortions after birth. Would you support that?
It's a really good question. I mean, at the end of the day, if people have been fighting, saying that it's parents' rights to choose what they want to do with their child. So, I think it's up to the parents to make that decision. And again, it would never be an easy decision for anybody to make. But if they were to make that decision, I'd have to believe it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, that's a very difficult decision. Just like having to go through birth in general and then having to make that decision, I could never even imagine the pain that would anyone would have to go through to do.
Do you think there should be a cutoff for the age of abortions after birth?
I mean, at that point, it's up to the parents' decision. I mean, technically, if the child is already born, then it's not an abortion anymore. Abortion would be if it was before the child is born.